find it amazing that at the peak of coronavirus deaths, same time we have Easter, Resurrection Day, made me think about what it would be like today if Jesus were walking the earth now rather than 2,000 years ago. I'll say this, he would not be practicing social distancing. He'd be walking right up to people, laying his hands on them and healing them of coronavirus or whatever ailment they had. And by the way, there was no press 2,000 years ago. But at this point, man, they would come out in force to bury him. They would not accept him at all. They'd bring in scientists that would talk 24 hours a day about how, the miracles are not possible, blah, blah, blah. And they would nail Jesus, pardon the pun. He also would be teaching. And he was a phenomenon 2,000 years ago. Imagine today with social media and 24-hour wall-to-wall coverage on television and radio. He would be a global sensation, and most of the world would love it. I mean, he'd be preaching love and compassion and kindness, as well as the kingdom of God. Now, the press would hate him, but let me tell you this. The establishment would hate him, the government establishment, and even the religious establishment. The government would not be able to stand this talk of the kingdom of God, and there's a kingdom above governments. They wouldn't understand, like in Isaiah 40, where it says that all the governments of the earth, all the nations of the earth are but a drop in the bucket compared to God. So this kingdom of God, which was so grander, so greater than any government, and plus it was everlasting, they wouldn't be able to take it. Then the religious establishment, not only was he talking about the kingdom of God, he was speaking for God, claiming to be God. They're not going to accept that. And so the only way in this country that you bring people down where they don't actually commit a crime is get them going under an investigation. Got to have a court. And so he would be arrested, I promise. Now, even though he committed no crime, they'd have to charge him with stuff like sedition or insurrection, treason, maybe even terrorism. And we'd all debate as the trial went on. Do you believe him or do you reject him? And then he'd be found guilty. And there's only been 3 executions in this country in the last 50 years. He would be the 4th. We'd all turn our TVs off at his death, and the debate would ensue. And then Sunday morning, rumors would abound throughout the world that he had risen from the dead. And once again, we'd all be going crazy. The press would just be beside themselves. And they'd be saying, listen, if you see him on video or interviewed on TV, it's not real. If you hear his voice, it's dubbed. If you see his picture, it's Photoshopped. It's all a fake. For those who believe, they would shout in victory. They would cry tears of joy. They would fall to the knees in worship. Now listen, we're all going to die. If coronavirus doesn't get you, maybe it'll be a tree in the forest, falls on your head. Maybe you'll go the traditional way of heart disease or cancer. It doesn't matter. We're all going to die. The message of Easter is that Jesus has conquered death. There is life after death for those who believe. I can imagine decades down the road, some old guy that was an earlier follower of Jesus. And people saying, how do you sum all this thing up? And he'd say, you know what? Simply, God so loved the world that he gave his son, Jesus, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. Happy Easter.